Hello there, welcome back to the Life of Genghis Khan campaign Abridged. Last time we pushed out of our territory in two directions, attacking the Merkits in the west and the Tartars in the east. Against the Merkits we had several grinding battles and eventually managed to take some of their lands and vassalize their remaining territory. With the Tartars we took some of their territory, completely genocided much of it, and then peaced out to partake in an agricultural revolution that instantly failed. So now we're going to be looking towards going to war with other people once again. We don't have to wait very long actually, because just the turn after the failed revolution, we get this story event. Togrul, who I think is my uncle or something, has betrayed me in some way. Long story short, we're at war with the Kerites. Now you can tell how much attention I pay to the overall strategic situation in the game, because I'm looking around. I'm actually looking at the Kerites right now, but I was like, who are the Kerites? And had to look them up in the diplomacy menu, and I was like, oh right, it's those guys I'm looking at right now. I didn't even know the name of the ally I have in amongst my own territory. This is top quality attention paying. So yes, we're now at war with these guys right here, which is a bit inconvenient. I did have armies in the area recently, but I just disbanded them all after ending the war with the Merkits. So we're going to have to spam out some more stuff. They do have men near some of my ungarrisoned territories, but we can quickly garrison them by just raising tribal levies to stand in all the camps. This doesn't guarantee the enemy won't be able to take them, but makes it a tiny bit harder for them, and a couple of the places do have walls, so we've got some security there at least. Most of these settlements don't have any military production buildings because you have to pay upkeep on them even when you're not using them, so it's most efficient to have very few military production buildings and just try not to need them too much, try not to need troops all of a sudden like we do now. So in this case we're going to rely on the levies to hold out while a real army comes from our capital to come and clear things up. And actually, the enemy have some of their own undefended settlements around the place that we can go for, and you might also have noted we're now in the next turn. They didn't do anything with their turn. None of their armies that are standing around attacked us, so I shouldn't even have bothered raising all those levies. Instead, I'm just going to go take their undefended settlements, and now, another turn later, we've taken two of them, and the enemy just aren't reacting in any way, so this is going particularly well. This Longshan place needs to be destroyed because we're at the settlement cap and it's on the edge of the empire and it's useless, so down they go. The other place we captured is more in our trade network, so this is more useful to keep. It also has quite a large population as well, so that's a nice one. We'll just kill some of them with a bit of a sacking and then hold on to the settlement. They've also got more territory we can take, including this little camp which is down in the desert to the south of our territory. I think they just made this one recently. And there's really not much there. I think it was just one unit of archers. One curious thing is that archers can't shoot at range while they're defending a settlement, which is really the opposite of how you would expect that to work. So this is great. It means our tribal levy spears can fight the archers in melee, and while I'm just coming in with this one spear unit, I think two actually, we will be able to grind our way through and get that victory. There is a slightly more important battle going on at the same time though. I'm attacking the Kerite capital. It might actually be pronounced Kerit or something, by the way, but these guys with the cross on their banner, their capital in the top left of their empire was completely undefended. So I'm just moving in some troops from Ulan Uda over in the Merkit territory to go and take it. They have to set fire to one of the gatehouses, and once they do that, in we go. This means the Kerites are having a very bad war indeed. They've now lost 3 settlements and their capital. And you can tell they don't really want to be involved. The AI was clearly thrown into this by the story events. They wanted to be my friend. They were forced to go to war with me. They decided not to attack because they just didn't want to, and now they surrender. We've got a deal coming to us here where they want some territory from me and a bit of money as well, but they will be my vassal, and this is fine, especially because giving territory to your own vassals, as mentioned, is a good way to expand your empire and allow you to go and take other things elsewhere. So I accept the deal, and that's that. That brief war is over. We absolutely annihilated the enemy without really having to fight them. Absolutely perfect. I'm going to keep their capital because it's nice and developed and has good walls and stuff. That might be useful in the future. And that place I took down in the desert gets destroyed. So everything is over. Our interior is secured. Now it's time for us to do some reforms. There are various things we can do via the edict screen. Many of them are not very useful to us, especially the farming based ones. But one in particular is quite useful to us: central bureaucracy. So we can set up a centralized bureaucracy. It costs loads of money. It's going to massively reduce our income if we do this. But what it does is act as a gateway to other reforms. Once you are centralized, you can do other things, and the other things, the late game edicts, are what I really want to get to. So here we are, one turn later after doing the centralized bureaucracy. We have various new options, including a couple of special Mongol themed ones, but really I just want this generic one right here: salt tax. Salt tax gives you money based on how many people you have in your empire. You're just taxing the population. And if you're looking very closely, you might have noted that the money we make from salt tax more than pays for that central bureaucracy edict. So we've made a profit off those reforms basically, and we can do other reforms in the future, but none of them are particularly important in comparison. Obviously that will make us more and more money as well as we go forward and our population increases. Now, as for what we're going to do next, you can see I'm here a few turns later spamming out some units and thinking about going down there to the other side of the map. It's about time we crossed the desert and started to attack our enemies in the south. We've got the Jadoran Mongols still going strong down there, and of course the Jin dynasty. That's our story objective, to go take them down. That's a little bit harder for us to do, but we'll make our way towards them. Also, on the diplomacy front, I had a bit of progress there. I gave all my money to the Naimans in exchange to be my vassal, and they accepted the deal, so our power has just increased all of a sudden. Although I don't know how much by. One annoying feature is that you don't get line of sight on your vassal's territory, so we can't really tell what we got there when we bought the Naimans, but actually they do have a lot of territory, I would later discover, so that was a decent enough deal. The other thing I'm doing is pathfinding routes into the south, because there are mountains and loads of impassable areas, so we do need to actually work out how we're going to invade China. As well as the Jin, there is the Xia to the west, the faction we are optionally asked to kill. And I happen to have found one of their settlements unguarded with my scouts going down the west end of the map. So that's handy, we'll have that, and we've got more men trying to make our way there via a more direct route. So there we go, we just annihilated that settlement, and we'll continue on with our scouting to find out where the Xia actually are and get all the routes set up. Then in the next turn, a mission appears. This mission is to secure the Silk Road so we can become rich. Now that sounds pretty good. We've got quite a long time to do it, however, the place we have to take to complete it is quite a long way away. It's way off at the west end of the map, and we really haven't been in that direction very far, so we don't have line of sight on anything really, making it extra hard to get there because you can't move freely into the fog of war. You have to gradually turn by turn inch up, revealing the ground, which means you can't use your full movement range. But it is still an interesting mission, and here's something interesting. Some random faction appears and says, "Can I be your vassal?" So I say yes, and then that's gone. I don't know who they are, we've never seen them before. I open up the diplomacy screen here, and we're actually not even allowed to talk to our vassal because we don't have contact with them. So just somehow we've gained a vassal, some straggler wandered into the court and agrees to vassalize some kingdom no one's ever heard of, so we'll just take their word for it. I am going to set up to actually go on this Silk Road mission now, going to spit out some armies in our territory and start the walk. I won't really cover the walk because it's going to take a long time and be quite boring, but basically at some point down the line in this series my armies will eventually reach the other end of the map, and maybe we'll still have time to do the mission. That's the plan. We've got plenty of money, so we can waste cash having 2 stacks just wandering about. If you're wondering what's happening to Genghis Khan right now, he is just standing around in our territory because I'm waiting for a catapult to reinforce his army before he goes onto the Chinese side of the map to do some damage. We've just about found a route into Jin China down the east side of the map using those horse archers. Going to be sending a couple of stacks down through the Khitan territory to try and get in that way. The direct route into Xia territory isn't looking so easy to take because there's this mountain range that is directly between their territory and ours, so we're going to have to take some very circumventory routes to find a way in. At least we appear to have found some kind of back territory over there in the west, and our little horse archer squad is more than enough so far to start conquering the Xia. Obviously we already destroyed one of their settlements, and here we discover another unguarded settlement, so we'll just move on in there right away. This is going particularly well. Always pays to have cheeky units wandering about, I think. Also, our scouts have now finally reached China officially. We cross a river and enter the farmlands of Jin China, and this means we can start being real annoying like I did in my other Oriental Empires campaign. Just have one unit wander around burning all the farms, because now they're going to have to rebuild them if they want to use them. We get money every time we do it, and if you do it enough it can ruin public order and population and potentially trigger a revolt. So just having a few units wandering around annoyingly is particularly good in that regard. We've got an army moving across the desert towards the Jadoran Mongols' new territories on the edge of the mountains there, so we want to take them down. And here's me discovering that basically we're not getting into Xisha territory anytime soon via the direct route. There's just this huge mountain range across most of the map, but there is a way through it over here to the east, so our main force will try and snake its way through to get into the soft, farmy underbelly of the Xisha Chinese faction. Unfortunately, my random squad over in the west encountered some Xisha troops out in this void and was defeated in battle. They're still alive though, so we can still move around. And really it doesn't matter if the enemy take that place back, because I just took it flippantly. We can just leave it to them. I didn't actually destroy it, as you might have noted, because I thought maybe I could actually hold on to it and make a couple more random units to be wandering around in that area to try and do more backline antics before we actually find a proper way to attack the Xisha. Now right here we are attacking the Jadoran Mongols. Our army has finished crossing the desert and slammed into their first settlement. They did have a whole load of guys inside defending, but no walls, so we can pile on in for a brawl. And we do eventually win this battle, although with moderate casualties, because it was just a grind between units that aren't especially good in melee and just killing each other in roughly equal numbers. In we go in the end then. Now we get this nice deal from the Khitans. They want a Fraternal Harmony Pact, and we definitely want to agree to that, because they're actually the vassal of the Chinese, so they're supposed to be at war with us. So now that we're kind of in alliance with them, things are getting particularly cheeky over there. The Tartars also want Fraternal Harmony. They're throwing in all these other things to the deal, and I'm going to throw them out, because I'm happy to just be in alliance with them since we're going to ignore them for a bit. I'm kind of moving my focus onto raiding China now to see where we go with that, rather than bothering to take down these other periphery factions. So yes, we're going to leave the Tartars out there. We're going to leave the Khitans as long as they don't actually bother honouring their vassalship duties. And as for this settlement we've just taken, I'm going to keep it, not only because we can get tons of cash from sacking it, but because having a base on this side of the desert will be useful for our campaigning. We can spam out some more units or something from there if we leave the place. Won't be very useful to us trade-wise or anything like that, but for military campaigns handy to have. And that army is now going to start moving to the southwest rather than going towards the more heavily defended targets in the east. We'll wait until Genghis arrives to get really serious with the fighting. In the meantime, one of my scout units actually captures one of the Jadoran Mongol settlements. That's very nice. And as I said, the army that just captured that more heavily defended settlement has moved down to the southwest, where there is a walled place for us to go after. The guys I have moving over to the west annoyingly suffer from sickness there. This can either kill your troops or reduce their combat effectiveness, their stamina bar basically. Both of which are annoying because that will make it harder to actually achieve the objective at the other end. But no point going back or anything, we'll just keep marching and see how that goes. We've also now got our stacks through the Khitan territory, and we are ready to start invading China properly with some armies, so things are going to heat up from now on. We've also got our army through the mountains over where the Xisha are, so we just have to cross a river and then we'll be reaching the first Xisha walled settlement, which by the looks of things is not very heavily defended, so our little army, which is actually quite good there, should be able to do some damage. We reach that next walled Jadoran Mongol place. Not that much inside, but we have to wait for the walls to go down, of course. Eventually, after a bit of fast forwarding, some breaches are open and we start moving in. Looks like our Khairite vassals are even helping us with this fight, and are being distracted by some random unit of spears trying to attack some random unit of my horse archers out there near the desert. Looks like we're going to win that battle, and we also successfully took the settlement. That's another case where I'm going to keep that settlement for use as a base. As for the first Jin Chinese walled settlement, well, once my army arrived, they just walked right on in. This was one of these actually quite rare cases where the settlement does surrender because of the terror mechanic. I'm not sure what the probability of it happening is, but it's happened I think twice in the campaign so far out of, I don't know, perhaps at least 10 attempts to attack a terrified settlement. Not really sure. Here's another case, we're attacking a terrified settlement. In this case, it falls instantly because we have the numbers to get the technical win. And that's another Jadoran Mongol place taken down. That one was just south of Ordos. I'm going to destroy that one. As for the place they just captured from the Jin, we have to sack it. Really, with these Jin Chinese places, they're worth so much money from sacking, it's hard to resist. But then again, I don't have the authority to actually start capturing the empire and controlling it, which is really what you should do for maximum power. So it's going to be a bit of a mix. What I'd really like to do is capture a place and then destroy it later, but I don't know how viable that is. Anyway, we move on, and our forces have now arrived at the first Shisha walled settlement. There's one unit inside, I think, so victory should be easy, but we do first have to set the gatehouses on fire, because, as we've mentioned before, even though the gates are open, our men do like to have a good bit of warmth as they go through the gatehouse, so we'll set it on fire first. We need 2 breaches to win, so we open 1 breach, then some men will go kill themselves fighting whatever that is in the gatehouse, and then we get the win instantly after that. So it's happening right now. The Mongols are breaching and capturing China's defended walled cities. They are going to be in big trouble if this keeps up. Shisha asked for peace right after that win, but they refused to be my vassal, so it's going to have to be a no. Somebody's got the right idea though. At the start of the next turn, I've got this offer from the Khitans. They just say, I'll be your vassal. Absolutely no terms, so we'll just say, yeah, okay, you can be my vassal. And that's especially good because they were the vassal of the Jin, so we've stolen our enemy's vassal without really doing anything. I don't know why they were so willing to just come over and join us, but that was nice of them. Guess they want to join the winning side. So, with our strength now enhanced, we'll continue on against the Jin. I was wondering at this stage, how close are we actually to winning the campaign? Because we've vassalized a lot of people. You have to control something like 2/3 of the total map population to win, and we control about 2/3 of that 2/3. So I don't know, we're probably approaching halfway to victory, and of course there are 2 ways to enhance our score there. We can either capture territory to hold its population, which does rub up against our authority limit, or we can just genocide everyone else and then technically win because we control the remaining population. So it's going to be a mix of those 2 strategies basically. Here's an example where I was very enthusiastic to kill a whole load of the Shisha. I think sacking that settlement and holding it as a forward base would have been better really. It was a nice walled settlement with tons of money available from sacking it. But I just killed them, and that army will now go west up the river towards another lightly guarded Shisha place. That Ganzhou thing I captured in the Shisha's back lines is still sitting there. The Shisha never recaptured it, and I'm gradually spamming out peasant troops to form a new army behind the front line. That's going to be handy. Here I thought I'd treat you to a little bit of the experience of what it's like to gradually move across the map towards the enemy. I said I wouldn't, but here's just an example because this did take up quite a lot of the gameplay at this stage in the campaign. We can only move 1 tile into the fog of war, so our horse archer armies aren't able to use their full movement range, which is a shame. Every time we do this, we reveal a little bit of the map. That means we can now move 2 or 3 tiles further on, and we just rinse and repeat that, hoping we'll eventually find a route through all the mountains to the enemy. There's no guarantee there is going to be one, which is why my 2 armies are going via different routes. Now, a message from the Khitans, our new vassal. They've ended up at war with the Tartars and want me to join. And we are going to join because the Tartars aren't our vassal, so we might as well be at war with them, because that gives us the chance to make them a vassal, of course. I spam out a new army back over in the top right of the map in our old empire, which we don't see much of anymore, and they'll rush down to start attacking the Tartars immediately. Now, the Jadoran Mongols actually counterattacked that base I took on the front lines. They did have an army standing outside it for ages without doing anything, and then finally they attacked it, but only with a small part of the army. They're attacking with like 4 units of archers. I've already spammed a load of tribal levy inside the settlement after it calmed down, so they can't just storm on in. Plus, the army that took the Ordos area is now moving back to here to take part in the final strike against the Jadoran's capital, and they're going to arrive in time to take part in this fight. There's also a small fight going on near this giant Chinese city where it looks like the enemy's faction leader has come out on the field alone to take down my scouts. That's fine, because now he's out in the field and my main army is about to arrive, so he'll be in huge trouble. Also in huge trouble will be all of the levied troops that are now facing my horse archer stack, arriving at that settlement, so we'll fast forward that. They all die and the defense is successful, and they're just going to rest up and wait for Genghis to arrive in this area before we carry on with our main push. You do need to sit in your territory for a bit sometimes just to get stamina back, but it's so slow that I almost hate to do it because it's such a waste of time. Anyway, the guys moving up the river towards the next Shisha settlement arrive. They find a small army that was just archers waiting on this riverbank, so we quickly cross and kill them. We can't attack the settlement this turn because crossing the river uses up all of your movement points, but we are ready to attack and there wasn't much defending it there. Also, not being defended is this massive Chinese city, Yanjing. It had no units in it, I think, because their faction leader had walked out and died. Actually, he'd survived but routed off somewhere, facing my main army. So we move on into that city. We can get a whole ton of cash sacking the place, and we do want to occupy it because it's got such a massive population compared to other settlements. That's now adding a lot to our score. It does tank our economy though. They've got so many buildings here that cost quite a lot of upkeep and aren't especially useful to us. That things are looking bad economically. I guess if we had all the other settlements nearby and the place was trading, maybe it would be worth it, but right now it's not. So we're going to wait for the turmoil to end and then maybe downsize the city a bit so it's cheaper to run but can keep the same population. So yes, things are going very well. I think that might actually have been the Jin's biggest city. It's not their capital, but a lot of the other cities are much smaller, so clearly that was in a particularly good spot. We're also getting to the point, by the way, where some of our own camps are just about able to level up from town to city. I think only one or two actually made it by this point in the campaign, but it is starting to happen. We're starting to civilize and settle up north, but still without many farms, it's not really going to happen for most of our settlements. Our army that is attacking the Tartars has already genocided one of their towns and is now moving down the main road to go and attack the other ones. And we're setting up, as mentioned here, for an attack on the Jajoran capital now that Genghis has arrived. We'll leave things here for now, because after this we'll be going into the next wave, pushing through the mountains into Jin China from all directions, where unfortunately we are going to have to actually fight the enemy and deal with the fact that I'm still spamming trash from the start of the game in the classic OffiD strategy game style. So join me to see how that goes in the next part.